everybody? It's Dave here, and Tyler still isn't back. He's stuck in traffic behind an accident on the interstate. So you've got me for now, but that's all right. I want to welcome everybody to the show. I see that everybody has started to join, and why you're not transferring over to the chat, I don't know. Here we come. They're rolling in. We have Anthony, we have Raymond, we have George, we have Jason, we have Fort Mattyman, Northfias, we have John. Welcome to the show, John. Once again, the doc is in the house. Outstanding. Who else am I missing? We have Lonnie. Chicago, share, support, subscribe. Russell Wilson on the Vikings. He'll probably do way better than the Vikings offensive line. And let's put this up. Incredible compared to the Steelers wide receivers. Lonnie, I appreciate you coming on and saying that. This episode about should Russell Wilson be traded to the Minnesota Vikings was started all with one appearance by ESPN host, who wasn't Mike, what's his face? I've got it in my notes. He went on TV and suggested that Tannenbaum, that the Vikings trade for Russell Wilson, because this is like 2016 when we had Teddy Bridgewater's knee explode, and suddenly we needed a quarterback, so we traded for Sam Bradford. Well, I understand the analogy. It's not quite the same between Teddy's knee exploding. Thank you, Michael. The art is mine. I created that. I understand the knee exploding. It's a little bit different than just, fixing a meniscus. Teddy, there was, real thoughts he might lose his leg or his life if some of the arteries would have been severed. But the whole idea that we suddenly need a starting quarterback, what is Sam Darnold? Chopped liver? How is Sam Darnold compared to a 35-year-old washed up Russell Wilson? Those are going to be some of the questions we try to answer shortly, because guess who just showed up? That's right, the Real Forno himself. And here we go.
Sorry for being late, guys. Had a nice little traffic accident I had to navigate around. Welcome, Russell Wilson to the Vikings? I sure hope not. We're going to talk about that more here on the Real Forno Show.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Real Forno Show, hosted by the one and only Tyler Forness. A to Z Sports sought him out to be their Minnesota Vikings reporter and NFL analyst. And he's a proud contributor over at SKOL North's Purple Daily. Tyler is also the captivating host of The Good, The Bad, and The Hungry on the Voices of Wrestling Podcast Network, and a founding member of Vikings First and SKOL.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Real Forno Show. I'm your host, Tyler Forness. With me, as always, is producer Dave in the top left corner. Some interesting things happening today here in the land of the Minnesota Vikings, and we're going to start off with the one that captivated everybody's attention this morning. ESPN's Get Up. Mike Tannenbaum decided to throw out there that the Vikings should trade for Russell Wilson, and it's an interesting one, and I am going to pull up something, the exact quote that he said, because I think that is a really important factor here. He says, I quote, I think a win-win here is to trade Russell Wilson in Minnesota. I think he's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. They certainly can battle it out. And then talks about how Ryan Tannehill can sign with the Steelers because of the relationship he had with Arthur Smith. First off, Dave, why in the world would the Vikings make a trade for a veteran quarterback right now? What purpose does it serve them to get even a tiny upgrade potentially over Sam Darnold? What good does it do?
None. And I don't think it's coming close. And I'm not even saying Russell Wilson at this point in his career is better than Sam Darnold. I think this is Tannenbaum shilling for the Steelers more than anything.
That's an interesting perspective, the shilling for the Steelers angle, because looking at it, I genuinely had no idea why the Vikings would want to make that trade. They could have signed Russell Wilson for 10% of what they gave Sam Darnold. Because Wilson is on that vet minimum deal because the Broncos are still paying a significant portion of his salary, and it's a way that he can stick it to them, because the way that it works with offset language is if you have X amount of dollars paid by your new team, their old team can take that away from their salary cap space. So Wilson, the Broncos cut him before the 5-year contract even started. And now all of a sudden, Wilson is in a position where, hey, I can stick it to him and still get paid by the Broncos. And I can help out my new team by giving them a minimum contract. And I still get paid the same amount. So he did that. And is it a smart decision? We'll find out. We'll find out if the Steelers are a good team for him. We'll find out if it's a good situation. I genuinely don't know. I genuinely am not sure, but we'll find out. But I can tell you this. It would have been a very bad situation here with the Minnesota Vikings. Why? He's not a fit. He's not a schematic fit. No matter what you think of Russell Wilson, if you think he's going to be a good quarterback this year, if you think he's going to be bad, or anywhere in between, Russell Wilson and how he likes to play the game does not fit with how Kevin O'Connell likes to play the game. Kevin O'Connell likes to throw a lot of in-breaking routes, a lot of stuff with anticipation. That is not something Russell Wilson does well. Russell Wilson does not do any of that. He does not throw those dig routes like J.J. McCarthy and Sam Darnold did in that first preseason game. Russell Wilson does not throw deep crossers with anticipation. He is kind of reminiscent of an air raid quarterback. Likes to throw toward the sideline, likes to throw vertical shots, but we're not talking about throwing over the middle. And that's where kind of the bread and butter of this offense is. So Wilson was never a fit. And then to say in that same quote, to give like a 3rd or a 4th round pick to get Wilson, why? Why would the Vikings make that move? Why would the Vikings decide to, hey, we're going to give up a pick that we don't have? They don't have a 3rd or 4th round pick in 2025. They will get a 3rd round compensatory pick, but that won't be awarded until March. So why would the Vikings give up more capital in 2026 for, at absolute best, a marginal improvement? Marginal. Dave, it doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. I literally think Tannenbaum was shilling for the Steelers because the Steelers have the conundrum right now that both Russell Wilson and Fields looked bleh last weekend. Mm-hmm. Neither one clearly went out and won the starting job. So now to eliminate the decision on who's going to be the starter, get rid of one. And the one you want to get rid of is Russell Wilson because he looks old and washed. At least with, Justin Fields, he's 10 years younger. You've got something to work with there. And the whole bring in Tannehill, it's because of their OC caused Tannehill to have his best season of his career. And they're hoping that Tannehill backing up Fields will tell Fields, who's the better athlete, will help mentor him into his best season. And I think that's the whole motivation behind this, is that Tannenbaum thinks the Steelers want to get rid of Russell Wilson. Is all I could. That's when I initially listened to it. That's what I got. What was fun about it was the black lady that was sitting across from him and the facial expression she made during this interview, during the segment.
Yeah. That her facial expressions were absolutely tremendous. And even if the Steelers wanted to get rid of Russell Wilson, just cut him. He's on the vet minimum.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to cost you a dead cap hit of at most $1.25 million. Just cut him. Or just bench him. And he can be your second or third quarterback. I mean, it's not like Justin Fields has shown you anything that he should be the starter. Justin Fields hasn't exactly been good. But why? Like, I just don't understand. I don't understand the idea of it. Now, if you think Russell Wilson was as good as he was in 2019, okay. But then he's going to cost you 2 firsts, 2 seconds, and 3 players. Because that's what the Broncos paid to get Russell Wilson. He was available for the vet minimum a few months ago and has done nothing to show you that he made any kind of significant improvement.
I think it's whether Tannenbaum's shilling for the Steelers or ESPN's just looking to stir up some sort of controversy or clicks. They succeeded at that latter because there's a whole bunch of people talking about it. But I think it's stupid. It won't happen. It is stupid.
And if you want to generate some buzz and some discussion, why not do something, Dave, called being genuine? Have you tried that? Because let me tell you, this ain't it. Talking about trading Russell Wilson to the Vikings when the Vikings showed no interest in him. And Darnold is fine. Look, he's not exciting. He's not sexy. But there's nothing wrong with starting Sam Darnold for a year because your rookie quarterback tore his meniscus and will not play. Yeah, exactly, Dylan. If the Vikings wanted Wilson, they would have signed Wilson. And they didn't. You know why? Because he's not a fit. I don't know exactly how he's going to be a fit for Arthur Smith's offense. It's not quite as running as many in-breakers as the Vikings do because with the McVay variant of the zone offense, because McVay broke off of the Shanahan tree. Not Kyle. He worked with Kyle, but the Mike Shanahan tree. McVay elaborated on that by trying to throw more vertical and doing a lot of those dig routes, those dagger concepts. You don't see a lot of that in the wide zone system. You don't.
I think it's...
Yeah, it's
a Wednesday morning laugh.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is the kind of discussion the worldwide leader in sports is trying to generate, and not something better.
I think it was Anthony said they fired the wrong people or laid off the wrong people. Concur.
Yeah.
What else are we talking about besides this idiotic trade idea?
Some really interesting stuff. And if you look at how things are structured right now, and you look at how the Vikings are structured, first, I think we should talk about the move that happened today. The Vikings made a couple of roster moves. They did. I thought they were going to have one roster spot open, but they don't, because they ended up signing Matt Cindric, who was a UDFA for them that they signed out of the draft, but they waived him when they signed Dalton Reisner. They bring back Cindric, and they waive with injury designations offensive lineman Jeremy Flax out of Kentucky, who played 16 left tackle snaps for the Vikings against the Browns, and special teams ace Najee Thompson, who become a fan favorite. They also waived him with an injury designation. He had been out for the entirety of training camp with the knee injury. Those were a little bit surprising. I think what's going to happen with Najee is he probably reverts back to injured reserve, which is fine. That one, I don't really know what to think about Najee, because it's just weird. They loved him last year. He was really good, but you can't make the club in the tub. And I think enough players must have really taken a step forward during training camp practices to where they felt comfortable.
Well, I read today, Najee was cleared to practice this week, came back, and then next day, the knee immediately flared up and it was worse.
Okay,
And
so that's what happened.
right.
The article that the Vikings released, talking about the signings, said that Najee had missed all of camp. So I had read that and heard that he had returned to practice too, but then that kind of had me like, well, what's the real deal here? Like,
well, I'm curious what's wrong with his knee that, just coming out to the field caused it to flare up again. That does not sound good. No,
not at all. But unfortunate for him, he was really, really good on special teams. But
he rocked.
With that injury,
you loved watching him fly down the field and get in the returner's face. That was awesome.
He loved special teams. Special teams was his thing. He's like, well, I'm not going to make it as a corner, so I'm going to make it as a special teamer. And he was great at it. Absolutely great at it. And it's unfortunate that he no longer will be a Minnesota Viking, at least unless he reverts back to injured reserve, which I don't think he will. But good stuff from him in the 1 year that he was here. But now that opens up, in theory, a roster spot, Dave. And I'm wondering how that's going to play out, because there are a lot of roster spots for the Minnesota Vikings up for grabs. There are multiple players that could be getting those roster spots. You're talking about edge rushers, cornerbacks, wide receivers, like who is offensive lineman. Maybe there's an extra spot. Maybe this is how Dalton Reiser makes the team because Najee is not on it. It opens up a lot of different possibilities. And I think there are some guys who are really playing for their job. And one guy I want to highlight is I think it starts with Jaren Hall. It's interesting with the second change in that quarterback rule, where you can now elevate a guy, I believe, unlimited if they're quarterback 3 without having them on the 53-man roster. So if you want quarterback 3, you can sneak Hall to the practice squad and elevate him every single week. I think that's how the rule change is now structured. So that could mean Hall is going to the practice squad and they don't want to try to keep him on the active roster. Now, you could argue that maybe that's not the best idea. Maybe you should just keep him on the roster. But if he plays really well, maybe they decide that they can't let him even touch waivers because he put together 2 really good games, because he was 4 or 5, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns, a perfect passer rating against the Cleveland Browns. Perfect. Not good. Perfect. And I think that matters when it comes to this conversation. If he plays another really good game, even if it's against third stringers, you play really good in a preseason game as a quarterback when the team already has something invested in you. I think that's a good thing. It's a good thing for Jaren Hall. It's a good thing for the Vikings, especially because I think Hall would be a great, inexpensive backup quarterback. Like, you give him a total of $2 million over the last 2 years of his rookie deal, and you get a backup quarterback. Sounds pretty great. Sounds like a great use of resources. But we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition, because now with this new quarterback rule, maybe they decide they don't want to pursue that. Who knows? But I think Hall is potentially playing for his job.
Could be.
Another guy that I think is playing for his job. I'll start there in a second. Dylan asked, they already told Reiser they want him on this team this year, so take his time with his injury. I mean, sure, but he's not a starter. So theoretically, he should be out there trying to earn a roster spot. A lot of people view him as a starter because he started so many games for the Vikings, but he's not. He isn't a starter. He wasn't a starter this past offseason. He wasn't going to be a starter going into the year. So why is that all of a sudden going to change? If you're viewed as a backup and other guys take steps forward, you're out of a job. The league is the ultimate meritocracy. If I'm better than you, I'm going to get your job. The only reason I might not is because of salary cap. Like, Lewis Cine might get the job over Jay Ward if they're equal in how they're playing now and how they project forward. Why? Lewis Cine is a fully guaranteed contract. And you're going to take a much, much bigger cap hit by letting him go than you would be letting Jay Ward go. I think that factors in here. And
Delton's assuming we keep 6 safeties. I don't think we keep 6 safeties.
I think there's
I'd
a
be
chance we keep
kept 5.
I think there's a chance we keep 6 safeties on cutdown day, and by the next day, it's not at 6 anymore. Now, remember last year, the Vikings only had 8 offensive linemen on cutdown day. By week 1, they had 10. So those are things to keep in mind. What it looks like on next Tuesday is not necessarily how it's going to look next Wednesday. And I think that's just an important distinction here, Dave. Now, I think Reisner not playing could be the nail in his coffin as a Minnesota Viking, especially if Michael Juergens comes out and has a really good game. If Juergens plays well, that could be the end of it.
Could be.
Like, Juergens is fine. He's a solid enough football player with potential. Reisner, not so much. He kind of is what it is at this point. So
Aaron,
if you believe in the
right, cuts could lead to ads.
Yeah,
especially when they start looking at other teams' cut lists.
The Vikings have made a lot of moves after cutdown day. One of them being Jalen Reagor, Ross Blacklock, David Quessenberry. They found ways to add players on cutdown. Could very well be the case here. Will it happen? I don't know. I can't predict who's going to be available, but it's very possible that they could make significant changes to the back end of the roster. We'll see. But I think it's important that Reisner, if he doesn't play in this game, he needs his contemporaries to not play well. Otherwise, I do think that he may not make the roster because, from my understanding, he has a lot of incentives that are based upon making the roster in that contract. So we will see. I don't think he makes it, but I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. It's so hard to know how the Vikings and other NFL teams will kind of view how they want to build their roster, because sometimes it's not about the best 53 or the best people per position. There are other factors that go into it. There's future. There's I can sneak this guy in the practice squad, but I can't sneak this guy kind of discussions happening. You have to talk about the logistical stuff. And
there's also
I'm very intrigued.
Considerations. Yeah. How does this guy get along with the group versus that guy? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Now, people are talking how many in each position are you looking at? And this is, you could probably get to 50 relatively easily and then still have 10 people to get to 3.
Mm-hmm. That's the tough part. My latest 53-man roster projection. Let's take a look here. And I will break it down for you, how I had things. And I released this, I think, was it Sunday? Yeah, I released it Sunday afternoon. I had 3 quarterbacks, Darnold, Mullins, and Hall. 4 running backs, Aaron Jones, Ty Chandler, Kenny Nwangwu, CJ Ham. 5 wide receivers. I've consistently kept 6, but I kept 5. Jefferson, Addison, Naylor, Powell, and Tristan Jackson. Tight ends, Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, Nick Muse. Offensive tackle, just 4. Darisaw O'Neal, Quessenberry, Walter Rouse. Interior offensive line, kept 5. Bradbury, Brandel, Ingram, Feeney, and Juergens. Edge rusher, I kept 6. Grenard, Turner, Van Ginkel, Ward, Richter, and Gabe Murphy. Murphy is a candidate for IR because he's still not out there. I think that's a problem. Defensive line, I kept 5. Phillips, Tillery, Bullard, Roy, and Levi Drake Rodriguez. 4 linebackers, Cashman, Pace, Asamoah, and Grugier Hill. 6 corners. Byron Murphy, Shaq Griffin, Stephon Gilmore, Caleb Evans, Fabian Moreau, Dwight McGlothern, and safety. I had 6 technically because I had Najee Thompson on PUP, but 5. Harrison Smith, Cam Bonham, Josh Metellus, Theo Jackson, Lewis Cine, because I think Jay Ward has been bad. He's been bad at cornerback. And you can't be bad at cornerback. You just can't. Now, Ward was drafted as a safety, but he's got real experience at corner, which is why the Vikings gave him a lot of time at corner. And I just don't know how they're going to shape out the back end of that room. I really don't. Because Cine had a really good game. Listening to Luke Braun said that like Cine's game was kind of a smokescreen. It wasn't as legit as it could be. And just interesting.
He missed it, Don.
No, Gilmore's on there.
Okay.
Gilmore is on there. I don't know.
Gilmore's your CB1.
Yeah. And Gilmore's contract is very well structured too. Really impressed.
A little more than I thought it was reported.
No, it's $7 million. It's only
Guaranteed.
a $4.6 million cap hit. Sorry, $4.3 million cap hit this year, 2.6. The next 2 years,
2
dead
void
money.
Years. Yeah.
Yep. But I think they structured it that way because I think they would like to bring him back if they can, if it makes sense. Plus, it's no interest loan. So if you're going to have that salary cap space left over this year, then you just take it off next year because it's going to roll over anyway. So it really doesn't matter. It just gives you more flexibility if you need to make some in-season moves this year. And then you can still keep him next year because you have him technically under contract with those void years. Now they void, so it's more complicated than the simplicity of it. But I think that they want to keep Gilmore for a year or two. I think he's the new Patrick Peterson.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
That age and wisdom help. I think Harrison, we saw KOC on an interview in this last week talked about how Harrison Smith comes up once a week just because KOC feels he wants to be around somebody his own age. Well, now Harrison has somebody else his own age he can talk to.
Yeah.
And Stephon Gilmore. They're both drafted the same year.
Mm-hmm. Which is really wild to think about.
Mm-hmm.
It's wild to consider that they were drafted in the same year. But that is the way the cookie crumbles. A couple more guys, and then we're going to have a little bit of an abbreviated show because I got to get out of here a little early tonight, unfortunately. We talked about Jay Ward really needing to take a step forward. I think he needs to take a step forward to make the team. His performance against the Browns is abysmal. His tackling was really poor. Do I dress Odie up as a Viking pup? I don't. We dressed Odie up as a pumpkin when he was like a 4-month-old puppy, but I don't think we've done it since.
I like this question.
Mm-hmm. Who's going to start for Atlanta? I think Kirk Cousins. There's kind of this theory floated around that they're not playing Penix because they're going to start him week 1 and give him a trial run. That'd be so funny. Please do it. Please do it. That'd be so funny. I would love it. But yeah, the new tight end, Keith Johnson, I think was his name, from the Jets. I don't know anything about him. I haven't had an opportunity. I was out at a dinner with a friend who's in town from Colorado before the show, so I haven't had a chance to look. Jeremy Flax wasn't good in college. I was surprised that the Vikings took him as a UDFA, and then they had him play tackle. But thank you, Norsefius. That's awesome. It's an interesting dichotomy. It really is. But I don't think I didn't think that signing made a lot of sense. Sorry, we're We're a little tired over here. A little tired. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure what the idea was behind signing Flax, but Cindric just came in because obviously Flax was hurt, which is why they moved on from him, and they need bodies for that final preseason game. Cindric was already in the building, so it's a little bit easier for him to adjust in a couple days to be able to play in that game. Really disappointed about Najee Thompson, but I get it. I understand why you'd move on from him. Just thinks that he was hurt, and I don't know if he's going to be hurt for a long time, but unfortunate.
Mm-hmm. It is. Now, Cindric, I had to look him up. He was out of Cal, ran a 4.99, not bad for a big man.
No.
6'4", 295. Played 35 games, 34 starts, 17 at center and 17 at right guard.
Yeah.
So he has some flexibility. Thank you, SKOL Mafia. He says LDR for president. I do believe LDR. I can't wait to watch him this weekend as well. I think he's going to cement himself a spot on the team.
Yeah, LDR has been excellent. I'm really, really excited for him being on the team. And thank you so much for the super chat, SKOL Mafia. LDR is going to be a good football player, a good rotational guy. Will he ever be great? I can't tell you that, but he has the drive, the desire, and he's already shown a lot of growth from college to pro in just a short amount of time. So Judd Zulgad compared his motor, just the motor, to John Randall. Maybe he's got a little more John Randall in him. We'll find out over the course of time. I could not tell you yes or no either way. But I'm excited to find out. Yes. I'm excited to find out. And the Vikings play a game on Saturday. We're going to have some form of roster projection for you. And I'm going to have a lot of good stuff at A to Z Sports talking about the Minnesota Vikings. And we're going to have a lot of fun. I got to get out of here a little early tonight, so I apologize. It is a family tradition. We go to the State Fair at Open every year, and really excited for it. Really excited to go to the State Fair again, and I got to give the dogs a little bit of attention before we leave because they're going to be away from us all day tomorrow. So thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you guys for listening. Like, comment, subscribe. We've got a couple of new Apple Podcast reviews that were 5 stars. Thank you guys so much for doing that. Please go subscribe there and give us a 5-star review. It helps more than you know. It helps with the algorithm. It helps other people find our channel, and it matters. Like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. It does the same thing. Thank you guys so much for listening. Don't forget, live at the 2-minute warning on Saturday with Dave. I'll try to jump on as well. And then 2 Old Bloggers Sunday afternoon. And don't forget, there's going to be a schedule change. Week 1, 2 Old Bloggers will now be on Saturdays for the duration of the NFL season. So you're going to want to make sure
September
you put that in your
7th.
calendar.
So you're going to want to have one more Sunday after this one.
Yep. You're going to want to make sure that's in your calendar. That's why you want to ring the bell to have those notifications on, so it'll notify you a half hour before a live show is scheduled to go out. I'm Tyler. He's Dave. Thank you very much. SKOL Vikings, everybody.
SKOL Vikings. Like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notifications. It helps us grow this community that we all love, our Minnesota Vikings. And on behalf of Tyler Forness and myself, Dave Stefano, thank you so dearly for watching The Real Forno Show. SKOL, everyone!